Hi, I'm Bats, and I've been collecting dolls for a pretty good portion of my life now. Maybe not as long as others, but I'd say from the late 2000s to now, I have been there. And so, of course, that means I've been collecting Mattel dolls for a very long time. Mattel has been synonymous with even the word doll since the beginning, and Barbie helped pave the way for nearly every modern fashion doll in existence. So it's kinda unavoidable to not own at least one Mattel doll in your lifetime. I mean, they own Monster High, Ever After High, Polly Pocket, Pixel Chicks, American Girl, Barbie, and so much more. I mean, I'm barely scratching the surface. But despite the overwhelming advantage that Mattel has over nearly every other doll and toy company, recently they just haven't been doing too great. And by not doing too great, I mean they've literally been pumping out some of the most hideous, low effort dolls I've ever seen in my life. Which I really can't understand because they know what the people want and are just refusing to give it to us. It's like they think because they're Mattel, they can do whatever they want and people will buy it, which is very tiring. The biggest example I can think of is the treatment of one of their most popular IPs ever. Monster High. If you happen to not know what Monster High is, the basic summary is that Monster High is a doll franchise that focuses on the teenagers of popular fictional monsters and sometimes mythical creatures. And they all attend a high school populated with other monster teens, so a Monster High. Monster High was absurdly popular, but got discontinued in around 2018 after their flop reboot in 2016, dubbed Monster High G2, where they decided to make them go from stunning fashion dolls to the kind of doll you'd see in the dollar store for a toddler. Of course, the transition wasn't as harsh as I'm making it sound, and it did gradually happen as we watched the G1 dolls slowly dwindle in the amount of budget they were allowed to have. But still, it was really bad. Not too long after the discontinuation, there was a very strong uproar of people who really wanted to see this brand get its third chance at life, but without catering to kids, or more so angry parents who complained about the dolls being too risque or too scary. And soon their prayers were answered. We got the first collector doll, Pennywise. The price was a bit much, at around 60 US dollars, but it was definitely a step in the right direction to get the dolls we know and love back. Or so we thought. Later down the line, we would get many collector dolls from all kinds of popular horror movies, like the Grady twins, Lydia and Beetlejuice, Greta Gremlin, Dracula, etc. A lot of people loved these releases, others not so much. A ton of people were waiting on the day we would see our ghouls on shelves again the way we all remembered them so fondly. And then, in 2021, it's announced that there will be a Generation 3 of Monster High, involving a live action movie and a brand new animated series. Then, just like that, in 2022, we are informed that the first wave of pre-productions will be released. And we also got the first wave of Haunt Couture in 2022. Despite the cast of the new live action movie leaving mixed reviews and the launch of G3 being very controversial because of the changes made to the characters and the designs of the dolls, I think a lot of people had hoped that somehow Mattel would be able to do these pre-production releases and also Generation 3 simultaneously. Then the pre-productions release in stores and it's a total nightmare. The dolls cannot stay in stock and they're nearly impossible to find in person. I still remember going to nearly every Target or Walmart in my general vicinity and finding absolutely nothing. I didn't get my first pre-production until literal years after their first release. The release of the Haunt Couture dolls really weren't much better either. I think Draculaura sold out in a matter of minutes. It really did feel like Mattel did not care about the first generation of Monster High, and it only got worse over time. It took nearly 2 years to get the second wave of pre-productions, which again had a pretty bad release and was still super hard to find. And then another year later, we got the third release, and now in 2026, we are about to have the fourth release. And even though it's taking them ages to release these pre-productions, somehow they're still refusing to release some of the characters included in the original waves, like Jackson slash Holt Hyde, which I don't understand. Of course, it might have made sense to not include boy dolls like 10 years ago, or if it's a newer brand without guaranteed sales, but with something like a Monster High pre-production, all of these dolls are almost guaranteed to sell out completely. Monster High has an existing fandom, and a deep love for all of these characters, even the boy ones. So the more I think about it, the less this exclusion makes sense. And I genuinely can only chalk it up to Mattel being totally lazy and not caring about what their fans want. And if they did care, they would make these dolls far more accessible to the public because they have the ability to do that. They're the biggest doll brand of all time, and every time I walk into a store, I see shelves full of Generation 3, so it's not impossible. And Mattel has been lazy recently. The quality on the newer reproductions compared to the older ones is very telling. And same goes for the Skelectors and Mattel Creation dolls, where the prices seem to get higher and higher while the designs and quality just get worse. I have a few general theories on the horrible treatment of the first Monster High generation. But my main one is that Mattel only wants to use G1 for Skelectors because they can upcharge for them and hide behind the Mattel Creations label as an excuse. And they know people will buy these dolls because they're G1. And people are so desperate to have Generation 1 Monster High dolls in this like drought of them not being widely accessible in stores. It's like Mattel is just beating a dead horse over and over and over, and now it's just coughing up dust. The new designs are just not as cute as the originals. But hey, what's the point of making the reproductions of dolls people actually want at a fair price when they can just make the ugliest Abby doll you've ever seen for 100 US dollars? And I think what I find the most frustrating is that giving the people what they want is so easy. MGA has been giving widely accessible Bratz reproduction dolls since 2021, only a year before Monster High's reproductions. Every time I go to a store, I see the shelves lined with Bratz dolls, and that's how I so desperately want it to be with G1 Monster High. And sure, a lot of people have their complaints with Bratz, and I do get that, but I just feel like they're doing so much better than other doll lines right now. They're doing everything I want to see with Monster High, where they're not just reproducing the original dolls, but other variants of those dolls in different outfits, and they're reproducing the boy dolls in different side characters. And Mattel hasn't just been neglecting Monster High, but I feel like even Barbie is being neglected now, which is absurd to me. For a very long time, I feel like Barbie has been suffering the consequences of the very loud anti Barbie campaign of the 2010s. That's still vaguely around today, but not as intensely. I'm not saying all of it was totally invalid. Yes, Barbie needed more inclusivity, but I'm tired of people pretending that Barbie has always been some awful role model for young girls, because she just hasn't been. And I struggle to subscribe to the body image issue argument because I think it's kind of ridiculous. Yes, Barbie's body is completely absurd and unrealistic, but she's not a real person, so why does it matter? I understand that representation is important, but recently Barbie has felt less like a fashion doll and more like, let's see which Barbie doll will get us the most attention from normal non doll collectors for being progressive, even though Barbie has always been a decently progressive doll. And I feel like the most recent case of this pandering to Barbie haters is the autistic Barbie, which I struggle to find the necessity for, besides the fact that autism parents that view their children as the lesser beings will love this doll. Even though the bland printed dress on her is basically just a sheet of fabric and her accessories could have been sold in a fashion pack, so that it doesn't feel so limiting. Like, who's to say that Malibu Barbie or Brooklyn Barbie don't have autism? Pointing to one doll and going, yes, that's autistic Barbie, just feels strange to me, but maybe that's just my opinion. If they were maybe donating to a charity, I could see the importance, but as far as I can see, that's just not happening. The website says to celebrate the launch, Barbie will donate more than 1,000 autistic Barbie dolls to leading pediatric hospitals that provide specialized services for children on the autism spectrum. This donation is intended to bring moments of joy, comfort, representation to the community, reinforcing the power of play to foster connection and confidence. Which is great and all, but I just feel like they could do more. Like share a percentage of sales to a charity, like a few dollars for every autistic Barbie sold. I'm not sure, but surely they could be doing more. They're literally Mattel. And this is not hate to anyone who enjoys these dolls or sees themselves in the newer Barbie dolls. It's just that everything Barbie does in regards to inclusivity doesn't feel genuine. It feels like they're giving Barbie hideous fashion and horrible quality clothes and hide behind the excuse of, oh wow, Barbie is just like you. She's just an ordinary person. And it's just not glamorous anymore. The perfect opportunity to bring back the flashy, glittery pink Barbie aesthetic was when the Barbie movie released back in 2023. I mean, people were so desperate to have that back that hashtag BarbieCore was created, and it would have been the best possible time to reclaim Barbie's whimsy and femininity. But to my surprise, that didn't happen. Instead, we got like a million Ryan Gosling Ken collector dolls, which kind of defeats the whole point of the movie. And we live in an age of social media where every third post is about how girls miss the old magic Barbie movies of their childhood. But for some reason, Mattel won't make reproduction dolls or even acknowledge most of their old Barbie movies, like Princess and the Pauper. which is one of the most popular Barbie movies of all time. And it recently had its 20th anniversary last year, which was met with total silence from Mattel. My ongoing suspicion in regards to the Barbie fairy tale movies is that Mattel is way too scared to give them another chance after getting the Disney license back. They are clinging onto that mouse for dear life, and it's kind of devastating every other doll line that they have because they simply don't care about anything else. They know Disney brings in the money and they're not willing to lose it again, so everything else comes second, which is why we probably won't ever see Barbie's fairy tale dolls or Ever After High again, despite their popularity, which really, really sucks. As I mentioned before, I really admire the way MGA is giving Bratz another chance and is staying pretty faithful to their original dolls. Of course, they're not perfect, and there's been a lot of mistakes in their marketing and things, but in a broader sense, I still think it's far better than what Mattel has been doing with their properties. MGA has had some missteps as of lately, mostly involving the total downfall of Rainbow High. But for the past few years, they've been giving us some very memorable doll lines. I think MGA was really the catalyst for the doll renaissance of the 2020s. And without them, I kind of doubt things would have gotten to where they were. Maybe things can pick up again sometime. And of course, this is all my opinion. But yeah, I really don't like Mattel right now, and I'm hoping things will get better with them. Because I really don't love the Moonspell Magic dolls, and despite the love for G3 Monster High, I just can't bring myself to want to collect them. The K pop Demon Hunter dolls look good, and so do the most recent Disney Princess dolls. So I'm really holding out hope, but I don't expect much in the long run. Again, this is not hate to anyone who enjoys these dolls. I do understand how other people could like them. I just don't. But that's all for now. Goodbye. And also, let me know what you think in the comments.